Hey, what's going on? This is Relaxing LG_Jackson, and we are back this week. At least, well, I am back. Big Cozy, Too Cozy has yet again broke both of his ankles, and he is out. And now we had to pull, somebody familiar off the bench. The man himself, he has been gone. He's had grease in his body, stuck on a deserted island, all that other shit. He's been on the floor, but he's back.
I'm back, better than ever. They pulled me from the swamps of the lagoon. I came back. I fought 12 dragons, killed 12 bees, and I still made it here. And I got stung in both knees, man. Doesn't make any sense. I came back. I made sure to look out for the tribal chief. I know he'll be back soon. Trust me. The tribal chief never lets us down. I don't know what more to say after that, but just know I'm back, better than ever. If you don't know the voice, if you don't remember the face, it's Spence. That's it. It's Spence, baby. I'm back, baby. I'm back better than ever. I'm feeling like I never died.
I hope you sound like that. Like Jesus.
Yo, speaking of that, right? So I'm not going to tell you the store I was at.
All right. But the location isn't important.
Yeah, I might have told you the story. But I was getting brakes. I was getting brakes for a car. And when I was in the store, whatever, the guy, I guess it was a guy getting something also. So the cashier said something to the guy about his shirt. So I guess it must have had something to do with like the vaccine and all that stuff. Too political for me, so I stay out of it. That's right. To each his own. So I guess the guy was like, yeah, I'm not getting the shot. Cool. So then the guy proceeds to say all these things he lived past. And like, at first he said like cancer and things like that. And I was like, okay, I totally understand. But then he starts saying he got shocked by lightning 3 times. Then he said he got hit by a car twice. And then as I was leaving, he was like, he said he died like 2 weeks ago.
That's just a wild thing to tell somebody you don't know, like what can you say?
I don't know. As I walked out, I was just like, yo, I was like, you know what? I think he might say he died like 6 months ago or something like that.
Okay.
But all I know, I was just like, yo, you know what? I don't even know what to say. I was like, look, I think I told the guy, yo, just take the card. I'll get a new one. Like I had to get out of the store, bro, after hearing that. But yeah.
That's an interesting motherfucker, man. Like that's a very odd life to live. Like you have stories to tell. I'm sure that's just the small side of his stories.
He said all of this in like 30 seconds. So if you gave him about 2 hours, he would probably tell you everything you wanted to hear for like a classic novel, for real.
Right. So I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to it, but also what, stories and whatnot, you have the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case, right? It's kind of interesting. Like they said that, well, if you've been following the case or whatever, a lot of people thought that Johnny Depp was abusing Amber Heard because she had came out with some allegations towards him. But it turns out that Amber Heard might have been, well, it looks like she was abusing him and she actually shit in his bed.
What?
Yes. She shit in his bed. I feel like, that's like some weird, hateful type shit. It's not a normal thing you would do to somebody.
You know how much you got to dislike somebody to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, she threw glass at him, but shitting in somebody's bed, that's abnormal.
Yo, all of it's abnormal. All of it's completely abnormal. But like at the same time, like to do that in my bed, like now luckily, only thing I can hope is that it was like a solid one and not like.
I don't even want to think about that. See that?
Because then it gets into like the mattress. You gotta throw the mattress out.
I mean, like, I feel like that's just like what thought crosses through your head, and it's like, you know what? I know how I'm gonna get this motherfucker today. Like And like the first thought you have is shitting in somebody's bed. Like it's a crazy thing. It's surprising, but I feel like it kind of shining a light on something, like especially with like domestic abuse against like men. It happens. It's kind of crazy, but like, you know, what is he supposed to do being a celebrity? I'm sure it's a kind of an awkward situation to be in.
Yeah, that's it's a very tough situation to be in because it's a conversation that doesn't really get spoken about too often. Just because of multiple reasonings, but also like even as a boy, you would hear like, oh, what is he going to do? Call the police? I'm a woman.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
So like if you hear something like that as a child, just in passing or whatnot, I'm much younger than Johnny Depp. Like those older generations are a lot more like
they've seen a lot.
Yeah, they have a lot more callous in comparison, or calluses or whatever compared to us, right?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where you don't want to. You just in long story short, long story short, it's a lose-lose situation more often than not.
It's a lot, and it's unfortunate.
And then she could lie. Sorry, my bad.
No, you're right. She could lie, and it's like it's just interesting. If the case isn't over yet, we're gonna see how it plays out. So,
yeah. Question though,
what's up?
If let's say that happens to you, and let's say you and your old lady, whatever, you get into it. She says, "This is how I'm leaving this relationship, and this is this is how I'm going to end it." Right? Or you just pissed her off that day. Who knows?
Okay.
So she does that. What are you going to do? And let's say it's like she drunk like a whole like gallon of like a whole gallon.
There's no sanitizer in the bed. You have to throw it away. You just have to throw it away.
Just bought the mattress like 6 months ago.
Damn, I'd be upset. Like, especially if it's comfy, you know what I mean? Like, I like sleeping, man. Like,
yes,
especially going to bed, you want to feel like pretty, calm and whatever. And if you just ruin that, no, that can't last. Hey, we're done. we are done. This is it. Today is the day. Like that's it.
Doug. Yo, that's all you can do. I mean, you could flip the mattress, but that's not even on.
That's gross. That's gross, especially with that shit on there. It's like, like you said, who knows? TBD. Like we're gonna figure out what's going on that shit.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Moving on from that, we did have something happen this week. Right now, as we speak, listeners, the 76ers are playing. Joel Embiid is out. He probably will be out for this whole series, which means the Heat will probably, I'm going to say they're going to sweep them. And that's going to be an interesting thing as far as the playoffs go. I know you haven't been watching it, Spence, but the Grizzlies just started playing the Warriors. And I always tune into the Warriors when they play. I think it's an interesting thing to see Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and everybody else go off. But there's been a player named Jordan Poole who's been emerging. And this guy is nice. He's very nice, like throwing assists, making plays, like scoring. Like he's nice, man. Like I can't even lie. Watching him, it's like, hey, look, you can't just watch Steph and Klay. You got to worry about Jordan Poole because he's making plays. And then you're going to get picked off on defense by Draymond Green. So it's ridiculous.
That's crazy. I have to check it out. I know I think I've heard of Jordan Poole. I think probably not too long ago, I think we watched the game with them. I think he was going off also in that game too. So like I'll definitely have to check it out. And even though Joel Embiid's not playing, I'm going to be rooting for the Sixers when they come in that series. So
yeah, me too. But I feel like that's kind of a lost cause, But
no, it's not for me. I was a Sixers, like growing up as a kid, I was always a Sixers fan. So
I feel like I was a Sixers fan, but to me, calling myself like a strong fan of the team, I feel like is an insult to the other Sixers fans because I have fallen off into football and just pay more attention to that nowadays.
No, same here. I totally agree with you. But for me, it's like, I'm like one of those people where it's like, I can't see me rooting for another team. Like, it's weird for me. It's like, my loyalty is like, hey, if I am going to watch sports, I'm going to be a fan of the Sixers. I might like other players. Like, I was a fan of KD, but like, I was always a Sixers fan. But like, to me, it's like a loyalty thing, man. But it is a disrespect because like, I'm not. If you see me in the street and you want to, and I have some sports thing on, don't start talking to me about who played where and the game
I'm gonna do
and
that.
how.
You
Don't
already
do
know
that
I
to
do
me.
that.
Man, look, man. I'll start talking ragu double do, man.
Oh wow.
It's like, man, I don't even know.
That's
But
crazy. No, man, I don't know. I'm a big fan of like being in the teams and that I actually like the Sixers, or I'm sorry, the Steelers. You already know I'm a big fan of that. We just had the NFL draft pass recently. The Steelers were the only team in the first round to take a quarterback, Kenny Pickett. And I'm not going to lie, for me personally, as a Steelers fan, I don't think it's that bad of a pick. Ben Roethlisberger was at the end of his career. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. That being said, Kenny Pickett is, I feel, a decent, replacement for now. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say he's going to be a 15-year quarterback, but he seems to be the guy, and I'm not mad at that. If Pittsburgh, so he went to the University of Pittsburgh, right? So he played in the same stadium as the Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. They have an idea of what this guy can play like. Honestly, if they didn't take him and he was available, it would be like a bad sign on him because it's like, hey, we've been watching him and we don't want him,
Right.
That's why I see it. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know who your team got. I don't follow your team at all. So good luck to y'all as long as y'all don't play us.
Trust me, anytime we play y'all, I'm always praying for y'all defeat. So
same here. Vice versa.
Hey man, it's all love at the end of the day. But at the same time, I learned you can't edit what I don't say. So
that's fair. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. It is.
It's the truth. It's the truth, though.
Very true. Yeah, you're right. You don't want that shit out there. Don't say that shit at all.
Nah, facts. That's a fact. But good luck. But that's what's up for y'all, though. It's good that y'all are getting a new quarterback, especially with like, Ben and everything, the legacy that he's carried throughout his career. So I'm sure it's good to be able to finally get a new face in the organization.
Hey man, go Steelers, man. I'll always be a Steelers fan. Most of my family's from Pittsburgh. Shouts out to Pittsburgh. Shouts out to McKee Sports. Shouts out to Clairton. Make sure I get that in there. Not even me. It's like for my family. I'm nowhere near from there, believe it or not. I'm the only one.
Oh, word.
Yeah, but that's a story for another day. So
he was naming out all his hoods, people. Don't be fooled. So you saw how that rolled off his tongue, right? Yo, shout out my people out Clayton, out all my people out Mechanicsville. You know what I'm saying? I already know what that speech gonna sound like once the podcast of the year award comes out.
Oh yeah, I have to shout out those two places along with other places as well. So I got to get to that.
You gonna shout out Dover first, or you gonna shout out them first?
Stay tuned, man. Stay tuned. I don't know. I have a feeling I know which one, but I can't speak on that yet. I have to leave it a mystery for the people, So speaking, I know you did watch one thing this weekend, and that was the Shakur Stevenson fight. What did you think about that?
Yes. It was a good fight, man. Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. For the most part, Shakur Stevenson he dominated the fight for the most part. Especially in the first couple of rounds, you could see where Oscar Valdez, he was like looping his punches. Like he was throwing, how when someone throws a punch and like they're too far away, but they're committed to the punch. Like he was like stumbling and he was like almost falling just from trying to throw his punches too much. So he was having some troubles, but Shakur Stevenson was just put on, like kind of just worked the majority of the fight. Oscar Valdez did have a couple good shots, but I would say I can't really think of the rounds. I think maybe 1 or 2 rounds Oscar Valdez may have won, but it was clear cut that Shakur Stevenson won this and he was able to unify the lightweight title.
I was watching the fight and I gave out Oscar Valdez one of the earlier rounds, but that was pretty much it. I think Shakur Stevenson looked fast. He looked precise. And Oscar Valdez, for the most part, couldn't hit him unless he was trying to blitz in and hit him. And you saw that even, go wrong for him when he got down in, I want to say, the third round. So to me, I thought it was an impressive showing for Shakur Stevenson. This being my first fight that I've actually seen him fight, I was impressed. I was impressed.
Yeah, he's actually one of like he's actually pretty good actually, man. He's been fighting for a while. I think probably a few years ago I heard about him. And I think around that time it was him, Devin Haney. There was another kid that I think unfortunately he got himself caught up into like some trouble. But it was like him and it was Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and another kid that were like some of the top prospects that they were predicting like probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago. So it's good to see. Like I watched some of his fights, but not like that. But he's definitely been someone to look out for. So I'm glad this was like the first time you see him. I'm like, hopefully, like I'm not sure who he's going to fight next. Even in his post conference, they asked him, but he said he's not really sure yet. Did you know? I'm not sure if you know, but did you watch the post conference?
I didn't. What happened?
So 2 things actually. So one, typically during the post conference, you have like the promoter up there, right? So you have Bob Arum up there, of course, for Top Rank. And who would you think would be? Take a wild guess at who sat next to Shakur Stevenson? The boogeyman himself.
Oh, really?
Yes, Jay Prince.
That's not who I thought the boogeyman.
I know it wasn't. Who are you thinking of, man?
I was like, okay, maybe this is a boxer or another promoter. Eddie Hearn's been in the news a lot recently. So I was like, maybe he might have, I don't know.
Nah, not Eddie Hearns. It was Jay Prince. I guess he's back. Well, he's been promoting. He's always been a boxer promoter. He promoted Floyd like in the early parts of his career.
Right. Okay. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, but nonetheless, he was actually, I guess he's like his promoter. So he was up there the whole time. But then somewhere, I guess during the post conference, there ended up being a fight between Shakur. Allegedly, they're saying from the clip I saw, allegedly Shakur Stevenson family or somebody or someone that was I'm guessing it was his family in the security of the arena, MGM. Because immediately as like everything is going on, Shakur Stevenson leaves like the stage and runs to like where the commotion is. And then you hear someone saying like, no, you better not, no one's touching my mama. And then next thing you know, it's how these things work. It goes from one space into like, it's like 20 people.
Right.
So it leads into another space. And you see someone holding on to Shakur Stevenson. So I'm guessing something happened there, but I mean, I don't know. It's unfortunate because I think, luckily, I don't think it's been something that was talked about too much, but it was something very interesting. But nonetheless, congratulations to him. He did what he's supposed to do. I'm wondering who he'll fight next because that's what I think they were going to try to start prying more into before the commotion happened.
Well, who do you think he should fight next, in your opinion?
I'm not sure, honestly. That's where I would be kind of left at. Because boxing, that's the thing with boxing to me, man. Like, there's so many you can have different people. So for me personally, I just wouldn't know. I'm not sure who he should fight next in terms of like I said, I haven't been keeping up with him per se in that division also. So,
well, shouts out to him and shouts out to Jay Prince. Definitely an interesting showing this weekend. Next weekend, we have a couple of things coming on. Another boxing match with Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people would consider to be the best boxer today. Spence, what is your prediction of the fight?
Definitely. I'm going with Canelo. Canelo, like we said, is one of the best out right now. And he's arguably it's not arguable, but he's going to be one of the greats at the end of the day in terms of boxing. He's going to be a legend in his own right. So, but nonetheless, I haven't watched a lot of Bivol, but I have seen some of the stuff I have seen, and even hearing some of the chatter and interviews about some of the fights. I hear that he is the real deal and someone that we should be pressed for, but at the same time, I think we all know like we all know who Canelo is. So I don't really see an upset coming here. Like Canelo's out here really instructing his fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like he's instructing his opponents.
On some Max Holloway type shit.
Yeah, you saw the fight. I think it was I forget the fighter, but I think it was some fight. No. I'm thinking of two different things because Canelo was trying to instruct Oscar Valdez during his fight against Shakur Stevenson. But I think Canelo was chatting with one of his fighters before one of his fights. Like having a whole conversation with dude, and then they just kept fighting. But that's just goes to how nice he is.
It's just, I don't know, a lot of people out here, man, they're all nice on another level. And I think it's interesting to see Canelo get into this fight. And I think he's going to win this fight, by the way. But he's also been opening up talks with Kamaru Usman, and they've been going back and forth on Twitter. And they've been acknowledging each other. And I think Canelo said something along the lines of, you've been saying my name for a while now. Okay, I'm here. And I just can't imagine that they would fight. But that being said, though, with the talks of Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury, Canelo, Usman might not be so far-fetched. I'm not saying necessarily on the same card or anything like that, but it's not a far-fetched thing to say that they might actually fight each other.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think this would be a blockbuster if this fight was to happen, just because of like, for one, we all know who Canelo is, and I'll put it like this: these are two fighters that are still like in their prime, or still near that space of their primes. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So this would be something different, where it's like you got we're taking two championship fighters. And I think we spoke on it before, like taking two championship fighters and in their prime and putting them against each other in two different sports, but I don't know. I think Usman is really pushing to get this fight to happen. He knows this is a big payday. Canelo even knows it. Canelo knows it because I saw some of the tweets. Usman's like, we can do it in the ring, in the octagon. Canelo said, you know where the money is.
Yep.
You know where the money is. You gotta wait. I'm working on my legacy. Jesus. Like Canelo, I'm sorry, bro. We all know how that fight ends.
I mean, we all do. I know Kamaru Usman has to know how that fight can go, but he's going to try his hardest to make it not go that way. And shouts out to him for that. And I hope he gets paid a lot of money. But we all know how that fight's going to go. So, that's that.
Yeah, that's that. But I mean, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, especially it's something's got to come. I'll put it like that. Something's got to happen if they keep tweeting about it. But
the way I see it is like, I'm interested to see that, but I'm interested also to see the UFC card that's coming on this weekend. We have UFC 274, Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, the main event of this weekend. The lightweight title is on the line, but let's run down the card. Spencer, you ready?
Yes, let's go for it.
All right, so the first card we have, according to the fight card that I'm looking at right now, is Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon. How do you see that going?
I got Joe Lauzon going for that. I honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna root for Donald just off nostalgia, but I think he's gonna lose.
I think this is I hope it is a retirement fight for both of these fighters. And I'm not gonna lie, man. I like both of these fighters. I think they're great. But that being said, though, it's time, man. Like for both of them, this should be it.
Nah, man. Look, after this fight, Donald Cerrone's got 10 more fights in him this year.
Man. Donald Cerrone's been through a lot, man, like with these fights.
Bro, listen, man. It was fun. It was fun when he was a younger man, but now that he's getting older and like just in terms of just being a fight fan, you want to also see these fighters age also and be able to enjoy like the latter parts of their life after fighting. You get what I'm saying? Just from a fan perspective. Because you never, like to me at least, you never know, maybe one day they end up doing like documentary. You get to hear more of the story down the line, like once they get out of the ring. But if Cowboy's been through too much, man, I don't really want to see his head keep getting beat, man, especially if he loses.
Yeah, man. It's like, and it's not like he's like just losing anymore. He's getting like TKO'd. Like, he was a guy who was pretty durable throughout his career. And I think it's just that time. And I understand he likes this shit, but man, he hasn't, I'll put it like this. He hasn't won since 2019. He hasn't beat a top opponent in a bit of time. And
Jeez.
you know what I mean? Like, I think it's just that time, personally.
Jeez, man. The last person he beat was Alaquinta.
2019.
Yeah, geez, man.
Yep.
Lost to Ferguson. Oh, he pretty much lost to this card. He lost to Gaethje.
Oh, wow.
He lost. That's crazy. He lost to Gaethje. He lost to Ferguson. Yeah, just in terms of from this card. But yeah, that's kind of crazy, man.
Hey, man, shouts out to him. All right, yeah, so the next fights we have are Shogun versus OSP, Ovince St. Preux.
Yes.
Like, is this a rematch? Oh, shit. I didn't know they were running this fight back. That's crazy.
When did this fight happen before? This must have been like super early.
So, nah, this fight actually happened 8 years ago. And Ovince St. Preux got knocked out in the first round. It was very like, you see, some people said he slept on a banana peel.
Oh, that was this fight? That was that fight?
That was this fight. I didn't know they were running this fight back. I hadn't looked at this card recently, so that is a pleasant surprise. I'm going to take OSP in this rematch, though. I think shouts out to Shogun, man, but I think his time has come.
Yeah, OSP won the first time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, it was Shogun that slipped on the banana peel. I'm watching it right now. I'm watching it right now. It looks crazy. Yeah, it was Shogun that lost the first time. I'm with this being so many years later, and I think Shogun is like much older of a fighter now. I think he should be on his way out as well as, like we said, in terms of like Donald Cerrone and Joe Luzon. So yeah, I got to go with OSP as well. Outside of just that fight, though, I think when we talk about stories, like in terms of like this card, this next fight, I think is like really interesting, bro. Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Who do you have in this? And then we can get into the conversation.
I think Michael Chandler is going to take this fight. But that being said, Tony Ferguson, it's interesting. His career has been interesting, man. I think Michael Chandler, for every other fight, I feel like I said that he was going to win, even though I don't feel like he's, if I'm not mistaken, he hasn't won a fight in the UFC. Let me look real quick. I'm sorry. He beat Dan Hooker. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
That was the first fight he had. With that being said, though, like, I feel like Michael Chandler, he's just going to be too fast. He hits too hard. He has the wrestling. Like, I think he's just the better overall fighter in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he finished it in the second. And for Tony Ferguson being who he is, having the fights that he's had recently, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
Nah, I agree. I think at this point, like, when you have someone like Tony Ferguson going against someone like Michael Chandler, I do see Michael Chandler winning this in the same similar fashion where he's definitely going to be aggressive with Tony. And we all know Tony, the thing that helps Tony Ferguson that is good but a detriment to him is that he has a sturdy chin. And that doesn't help him. That doesn't help him any. It doesn't help him much more often than not. But I don't know. I just don't see him really winning this fight. Similar, just looking it up, I think his last win was in 2019 against Donald Cerrone, actually. So yeah, I don't really see this fight going too. I don't really see this fight going too far. Seeing it going too far or the distance, nonetheless. Probably Michael Chandler will probably take him out in the second round. Probably second round knockout as well. But when it comes to Tony Ferguson, man, I think he has like one of like the bittersweet careers as a fan, bro, because there was so much hype around him at one point, especially when it comes from like when you're looking at the whole thing when you look at Khabib, especially, right? Yeah. When you look at Khabib and you see like people herald him as like some people want to herald him as like the greatest fighter in his division, right? And we all know the story of him and Tony Ferguson. Habib and Tony Ferguson was this big story. So for it to be that big story at one point, right? The big hype behind them fighting each other and it never happening. We all felt like, okay, this guy has to be valid. And it seems like after that whole thing, we just saw where Habib's career just kept going up, and Tony's he just never was able to bounce back. It seemed like.
I feel like Tony Ferguson, like he definitely got the shit end of the stick when it comes to the whole Habib situation, and then COVID happened, so you know, there was that, and he's only getting older, and it's unfortunate because with this being a young man's game, and he's fighting a fast Michael Chandler. I'm not sure if he's I don't even know what Michael Chandler's age is, but that being said, though, like he does not have the upside in this fight. I mean, is it possible he pulls it out? Sure, I guess, but that being said, the odds aren't necessarily in his favor. But that being said, the main event, a lot of people's fan favorite.
Whoa. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Did I say the main event?
Yeah, you said the main event. You scared me for a second, man.
I meant the co-main event, excuse me.
Oh, no,
co-main event, Thug Rose, Nama Nunes versus Carla Esparza. It seems like two people who find a way to win majority of the time they fight. I would say that I think Rose Namajunas is going to win this fight. This is the first time I picked her in a fight, maybe since we started this podcast.
That shows how much you hate her, bro.
I don't hate her, man. I just don't think that she's going to win these fights, but she finds a way to win,
What if this is... Go ahead.
And what if she loses this fight?
No, not that. I was going to say, what if this is like some curse you're doing? Like, yo, I always wish for her to win. I always wish for her to lose and she wins. So now if I wish for her to win, hopefully she loses. Is that what you're trying to do here?
No. Like, honestly, I think I would rather see her win than Carla Esparza, just because I think overall she's more skilled than Carla Esparza. When I think of Carla Esparza, I only think of her in her ground game and like her, I'm essentially going to outwork you in your fight type style. And that's cool and all, but she's not like a Chael Sonnen, you know what I mean? Or like a GSP who's going to be like really working a Habib for that matter. You know what I mean? Like she's not that. I think she just wins because she just does what she does well. And, nothing against her, but I'd rather see somebody like Thug Rose who, can work the stand up on the feet with people. I'd rather see that style instead of Carla Esparza style of fight.
No, I can definitely understand that, especially with someone like Rose. Anytime we've seen her in her past, especially like when she wins, she typically puts on a really good performance. And like, I think she's much, I'll put like this, in the times I've watched her fight in comparison to Carla Esparza, I think I do find Rose to be a little bit more entertaining, but a little bit more skillful. But nonetheless, I still, similar to you, as I've always done, I got to go with Rose again. Thug Rose, baby, you know what I'm saying? Like she's proven herself plenty of times before. She's been a champion once before, and I don't believe it's Carla. I think Carla Esparza was the next person we had. I think Lau was saying that she should be fighting next, right?
Yeah. This if I'm not mistaken, she's on somewhat of a win streak. Hold on, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight win streak. So I mean, she's been doing her thing, like not really anything to be mad at her for. Like I think she's been winning. And I feel like it would only be fitting if Thug Rose came back and beat her, because they had a fight before in the past and she took the belt for her, or she got I think she got the first belt in the division, if I'm not mistaken.
This actually should be pretty good then, with it being a rematch.
There's a little bit of a story to it.
Yeah, like I think this more often, I think those make for better fights just because there's some history there. And I think at this point now, I think especially when you look at someone like Rose Namajunas, I think she's improved over the years since we've watched her fight, since like when she first fought for the belt, essentially against when she first fought like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? She's improved a lot since then. She's improved since then. So
right. So I don't know. It's interesting. We'll have to see we'll have to see as to how that fight turns out. That being said, the main event, which I know a lot of people are looking forward to, Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. Spence.
The two men that beat Donald Cerrone.
Anthony Ferguson.
Yeah, yo, man, it was mopping up the card, bro.
And Michael
Like,
Chandler.
yo, anybody in the lightweight division has been touched by these guys. Pause.
Like shit. Who do you have winning this fight?
I have Mike. No, I have Charles Oliveira winning this fight. He's been looking too good in these other fights, and don't get me wrong. I think Justin Gaethje, when what we've seen when he's been able to calm himself down and not be so amped up as a fighter, he's been able to be a much better fighter. But I just don't. I just see this going back to the grassroots of things for Justin Gaethje, bro. I think Justin Gaethje is going to probably come out, and of course, he prefers the strike, so I think he's going to really try to go with the striking, which Oliveira will be able to will deal with. But I do eventually think he'll get him down to the ground at some point. I think he'll end up submitting Justin Gaethje probably in the 4th round.
I think that Charles Oliveira can win this fight. I think that he has the skill set on the feet to beat Justin Gaethje. But what I will say is that that's also the best place for Justin Gaethje to beat Charles Oliveira. I think because Charles Oliveira has shown himself to be a little chinny and Justin Gaethje can hit hard, I think it's just not necessarily the best space to be in. But we've also seen that Charles Oliveira can take a hit a little bit better at lightweight than he was some of the hits at featherweight. And I don't want to say he's ever been somebody to just be knocked out flat. But that being said, though, I think he has what it takes to win this fight, more or less on the ground. And as long as he's not getting put out on the feet, I think he should win this fight by decision.
Yeah, I'm not mad
by
at
submission.
Yeah, I'm not submission. What round?
4th.
Yeah. See, I'm not mad at that. Like, I mean, I think that's where that's where the real story is gonna be, because even to get to a submission at some point, you're gonna have to get close enough to the fighter.
Right.
And someone like Justin Gaethje, even like you said, and we know, he will throw some bombs at you and he will not let up. Like, that's his thing. He likes a dogfight. He likes getting scrappy enough with you. So that's where I think Charles Oliveira, like, I agree. I could see from that point, like, I think Charles Oliveira could have a problem there, but I don't know, man. I think just like you said, I think not Justin Gaethje. I still think Charles Oliveira will still come out on top, but it's going to be interesting. It's definitely be interesting to see, because it's going to see how many hits will Charles Oliveira have to take before he's able to really get his hands on Justin Gaethje.
So with, us pretty much getting through the card, there was another announcement for another another MMA promotion. ONE FC has said that they have signed a deal with Amazon Prime, and they will now be broadcasting some of their fights and fight cards on Amazon. Spence, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think for MMA, I think for combat sports in general, I think this is great. This pushes the needle forward, especially with someone like Amazon Prime, with being such a big network in its own right. I think both sides end up benefiting from this, with Amazon having the platform, while ONE FC is able to push their brand even further forward in terms of like the US and Canada market. I did have a chance to read up on this. Amazon Prime, they're doing 12 fights a year. So essentially 1 fight a month, which should be pretty dope, especially knowing that they've had a couple fights. They've just started, that ONE FC has just started getting broadcast in America not too long ago, in the US probably about a few years ago. So I think this is something big for them. And somewhere in the article I did read, it sounds like Amazon Prime wants to do some focus on building up the female fighters as well. So I think at the end of the day, anytime someone's trying to help build up any division, whether it's men or women's, or anything to that nature, I think it just helps the sport out. So
I think this is a good, I think this is a good idea for ONE FC. I think it's nice that they're signing to Amazon Prime, and I would hope that you can just go to Amazon Prime and watch these fights for free. I feel like some of these fight promotions do the wrong thing when they go to a place with a subscription and then they make you pay more, similar to what the UFC will do, which I feel like that's wrong. For example, Bellator, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have to have Showtime, and then I think they still have pay-per-views. People don't give a fuck about Bellator all the time. Like, it's just what it is. And I'm not saying, they're a bad promotion or anything like that, but not everybody necessarily wants to watch that, especially when they have fighters that are less known. Maybe me, somebody who likes MMA, but I would say somebody, like Spence, for example, might not go out of his way to watch it. It's just being real. Like, it's just what it is.
Nah, that's true. Like, unless at that point, like, it's kind of like, hey, like, I look at the UFC like the NBA. Like, don't get me wrong. They say they play better in overseas in the European leagues, but I don't tune into other major, quote unquote, major league basketball in other countries. I know the NBA is held at the highest regard,
right?
Just like the NFL is held at the highest regard. Now, if we're talking soccer, that's a whole nother story. I'm not looking at America. I'm looking at other teams from other countries, maybe Brazil or whoever. But like, yeah, like, no, like it's totally different. Like, at that point, you're not going to spend, unless a casual fan is not spending that, or someone that watches the sport, but is invested to a certain degree. Like, paywalls destroy a lot of things sometimes, man. It has the potential to, depending on what it is.
I think that Amazon is also trying to go out of their way to buy certain things and have certain broadcasts on their channel. At the NFL draft recently, they had announced that they're going to be the people showing the Thursday night games. Pretty big deal, because it's like the Monday night games. People will tune in and watch, even if they're a shitty matchup. So I find it to be interesting that Amazon is making these broadcast deals with sporting events and live events.
Yeah.
Recently, they just had the Kanye West event on there. So, I mean, they're doing things.
Yeah, bro, listen, man, they know where to put the money at. They know, because there's money in this stuff, man. And I think after seeing what the UFC was able to do with getting like that $1 billion, what was it, like $2 or $3 billion they were able to sell for, I think that probably put MMA and combat sports in like on a huge radar. Amazon's probably saying like, yo, let's get in now, before like some big conglomerates like saying, hey, let's ONE FC, I'll do what do you need? Or another fighter association. So
yeah, it's interesting to see it all go down.
Yeah, I think this is going to be interesting though, because like I'm curious to see what's going to happen next for like, even, let's say if it's not like, well, Bellator is already good, but like in terms of like other big networks, like I wonder if someone else would do this. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like someone like from YouTube, like if YouTube was like, hey, let's take some type of sporting event and we'll cast it. Like I don't know. It's interesting to see what they're doing, what companies are doing now with sports, especially like combat sports, which I think are still going through like their early cycles. Like we're just getting into like we're slowly going into like the Ali era, you could say. You know what I mean? Like,
this isn't the first time you said that.
Yeah, like, because to me, I just look at it like history, right? Like, don't get me wrong, we have some great fighters prior to Ali, prior to the Joe Lewis's of the world, and so on and so forth. Like, there's other historical fighters that are just as significant as a Muhammad Ali because they broke barriers, right? That are well over 100 years ago. But like all those things, like let's be honest, we all herald like the Ali era as like one of the best eras of like boxing, right? And to me, just as a fan that from the outside looking in, coming in to watch MMA as a casual in high school and kind of getting more into it after high school, it's like, okay, I start looking at the history and I'm like, oh, this started like in the 80s or 90s. Then you're seeing like, okay, you have your Ken Shamrocks, you have when there's no rules, there's pretty much anything goes practically, to now you have someone like a Conor McGregor at one point, or your John Joneses, your GSPs, like these different eras. Then there's like the TV marketing. And now we have like where you are now is just like where it's so much more of an establishment in terms of fighting, instead of it being like, oh, like I put it like this, there's money you can tell that there's more money put behind it now, right?
Right.
And typically during bigger fights, there's more money. Like let's think about this. Do you think anybody would have, like outside of like a handful of UFC fighters, you think a lot of people would have talked about like someone like Rashad Evans, well, not Rashad Evans, but like or even let's say Rashad Evans, like someone like Rashad Evans saying like, yo, I'll fight what's his name? I see his face, I can't say his name. But it'd be like him saying like he wants to fight a champion in boxing, right?
Okay.
It would be like, okay, like what or Jose, it'd be like Jose Aldo saying like, hey, I want to fight Floyd Mayweather. Like in 2007. Nobody's paying attention to that. No. Jose Aldo would be in his prime and Floyd would be in his prime. Canelo Alvarez in his prime champion, Kamaru Usman in his prime champion. I think a lot of people can say this fight would sell a lot. This would sell a lot of tickets. Nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? In compare, like there'd be more interest in it in comparison.
Well, I think it's just an interesting thing to see as to what's going on, you know, and I'm curious to see as to what all will come of this deal that they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I just think it does. Long story short, I think it pushes the needle forward when it comes to combat sports.
Now, that being said, I've seen that Chipotle is looking into some options as far as how people are getting their food. Do you have any more details on this? Because I'm not sure as to what's going on with the situation.
Yeah, man. So Chipotle, so I had a chance to read up on this. So apparently they're from the article, they're employing something called Chippy, which is like an automated automation for creating the chips, like the tortilla chips. So, which apparently they cook and fry every day. So they're fresh every day. Apparently this is like something that employees weren't fond of doing themselves. So this is what like someone from the company was saying that, hey, the employees don't like, these are tasks that the employees say they don't like doing, i.e. making these chips every morning. So what they're doing is, what they've employed is creating this thing called Chippy, or using this thing called Chippy from this tech company, which automates making the chips every day. And it even goes as far as they're creating a pattern or I guess some type of code. So it knows like, hey, everything doesn't even get seasoned equally. So you know how if a human does it, you might get the salt and lime flavor.
Yeah.
Some of them might have a little bit extra lime flavor, a little bit extra salt to it, right?
Mm.
They're going as far as making sure the machine itself is able to replicate that.
I mean, if the machine can replicate that, I'm not that upset because I like that shit personally. Like, you know, when you go to Chipotle and you get the chips that are just a little bit more salty than the rest, me personally, that's my shit. Like, I'm not going to lie. So by all means, bring in Chippy, bring in Wingy. It's unfortunate, you know, for people, I'll say, because, you know, some jobs will probably be lost because you just have less, I guess you have the need for less manpower. But that being said, though, the motherfuckers didn't like doing it anyway. So like, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate people have to lose jobs in all seriousness. But that being said, though, I understand business wise why somebody would do it. Now, that being said, I'm curious to see how this goes because I feel like it's only a matter of time before we're being served by robots anyway.
I mean, heck, depending on where you go, to be honest, there's a couple places you can go like up your way where they have like a robot. They have like robot servers and stuff. And even from the article I was reading, actually, they're actually having apparently like White Castle uses like a similar product to flip the burgers. And apparently they're creating something for steak to cook the steak perfectly and flip it at the right time, like all through automation. Like,
wild world now. It's a wild world we're living in,
bro. It's super crazy. Like it's super crazy the world we're living in. And the downside to it is that initially it becomes something a person doesn't want to do. And then it becomes, hey, why is this machine taking our jobs? Like, I'm not sure if you noticed this, but like, and no store specifically, but you know how typically you can go to like a grocery store or whatnot, and they may at one point, a few years back, you might see like a handful of like self-checkouts, right? So at some of these stores now that I've been to, you'll see the whole front is nothing but self checkout. There's no register anymore. There's just like maybe two. It's like maybe 2 or 3 people just facilitating, in case employees facilitating in case you have questions. But there's like 20 different self checkouts going on at simultaneously.
I know this isn't necessarily like the topic we're talking about, but maybe this is just the way things will go. Like over time, things change. Like at one point in time, people pumping your gas was like a regular thing. And for a long time, it hasn't been. So it's just interesting to see how things are moving. I'm just curious to know where people are going to work at.
Nips. That's going to be a good that's the real question, because
yeah, that's the big question.
Yeah, because over time, like, I guess maybe I don't know. I don't really know, because what I was thinking was like, hey, maybe they would be the people making these machines, like in factories. But heck, factories are starting to use automation.
I mean, it's just an interesting question, before we get too deep in it. I'll just say that, it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's definitely going to be something else to see in the years to come, because this whole thing is changing. Everything's changing right in front of us.
So would you trust somebody or a machine to cook your steak, honestly?
No, personally, no. And that's just because I like to cook. So I would want to cook the steak myself, but one thing I will say, just in terms of cooking and the use of automation or just technology, it could be actually a great thing to do. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a cooking technique called sous vide.
No,
but it's pretty much, it's just a technique of cooking something in water, but it's like boiling it. So
it's like a hot pot.
Yeah, but not like a hot pot. Like, no, it's kind of like you just boil water, right? And then let's say you put a steak in a Ziploc bag,
right,
and vacuum seal it. You dip that into the water or whatever, and you let it cook in the water for maybe 5 hours at like 140 degrees. And then you take it out, and then you pan sear it on both sides.
Okay.
It's a perfect steak. And you can do that countless times because you control every variant. You can control the temperature of the water. So there's no, like, when you're cooking steak or whatever, like the temperature fluctuates on the stove just because of the hot and coolness.
Right.
So like you can control everything, but I don't want to get too technical on it, but long story short, no, personally I wouldn't, but I can see how, I don't know, I can see how someone cooking a steak. I'm sorry, bro. This is not iRobot. I'm cooking my own steak. How about yourself?
No. The answer is no.
Okay.
So that's it for me. Now, Spence, over the past weekend, there have been a few releases. I know you did not get the chance to listen to them all, but that being said, though, there were a few good releases this weekend.
Yeah, man. Bam Bam Baklava, man. Action Bronson himself. He dropped Cuckoo Drillo. Is that how you say it? Or
I want to say it's Coco Drio Turbo.
Coco Drillo. Yeah, what he said, man. Coco Drillo Turbo. I didn't get a chance to listen to this one, but I'll have to check it out. Action Bronson, to me, is very creative. So I'll be interested to listen to it. Did you check it out?
I did. Me personally, it's interesting being a fan of Action Bronson's music and listening to this album. I thought that the beat selection it is an acquired taste. I don't think this album is going to be for everybody. The first time I listened to it, I wasn't the biggest fan of it, if I'm going to be honest.
Really?
Not because it's necessarily bad, but because like the beats were like throwing me off. These beats are, Action Bronson has rapped on some interesting beats, but these beats are interesting, So,
really?
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, personally. But that being said, though, I think it's a decent album. I think it is worth a listen.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Who produced this album?
There is a song on there produced by Action Bronson. I think that song will be interesting for you. If I'm not mistaken, it's an Alchemist and a couple of other producers, but I can't remember the names.
Okay, because I was going to say not Alchemist, but Action Bronson. He does pick very different music sounds.
Mm.
But he typically keeps like some solid producers around him. So I'll have to check it out then if it sounds like that. Like I'm guessing he's still rapping the same though, right?
Yeah, it's Action Bronson. So I mean, I feel like that should say enough,
But I'll check it out though. Well, one day we got to talk about his career too, man.
Yeah,
like, yeah, because he doesn't get the light he deserves. But outside of him, I did, even though I didn't get a chance to check out Action Bronson, one person I did check out, man, was Future.
Oh, yeah?
I never liked you. I never liked you. Never liked you. You know how many times you had to send that text out after that album came out? Toxicity will reign throughout the whole summer now that this album has been released. Personally, I think this was a good album. Did you get a chance to check it out?
So I listened to Action Bronson's album, Ransom's new album, and this album this weekend. And this album is my favorite.
Really?
Yes. Like this Future album is easily my favorite of the three. And not to say that the other two were bad albums, but I think it's partially because we haven't got a good album like this year, in my opinion. I know some people probably say like Lil Durk's album, but like to me personally, I would say this is like in that style of the more auto-tune rap. I would say this is my favorite album to come out this year. Yeah.
That says a lot. I know you don't really care for Future, right?
No, I fuck with Future. I'm not the biggest Future fan. Don't get me wrong. I don't like all of his music, but I do like this album. I like Dirty Sprite too. I thought that album was good. I listened to that album for like a whole summer.
Bro, that's a classic.
It is.
That's a classic right there. What, DS2? Literally that whole album. That whole album is like a classic in its own right.
It is. I'm not even mad at that.
What? Man, that takes me back to the summer. But I'm surprised though. This was a really good album. I did hear some people not like this album or not be as they said the album was mid. I heard a couple.
Why did they say that?
I think it's more or less they just have. I think it had to be a bias. That's the only thing I can really think of. They just said he didn't really. To them, they just said to them they said Future just didn't put out a lot of good songs, or they only had a couple bangers. So I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know what they were listening for. Because to me, I'm not sure about you, but when I listen to this album sounds like old Future. This sounds like classic Future to some extent.
That's what it sounded like to me. I was listening to the album and I was just like, okay, there's a lot of hard hitting songs on here. There's like 2 back-to-back songs, or maybe if you want to count the Kodak Black song, 3 songs that are kind of slow on this album. But for the most part, this album is a hard hitting album with hard hitting beats. Like, I'm not necessarily mad at it. I thought it sounded good. I was curious to hear people say that it was going to be mid though, because like for me, the way I listen to Future is I might not listen to every Future project. I might take a couple of years off and come back in. So like, I feel like for me, it kind of works out to where it doesn't all sound the same. And I'm curious to know if those Future fans just feel that way because like they are used to the Future sound.
I mean, that might be it. That might have something to do with it. Because like even like you said, like you revisit every so often.
Right.
Like, you know how it is. You're like a Currency fan, so you understand. Like, you listen to all their music, so you're like, oh no, this is better than anything he's ever put out before. It's not really that great. So like, I mean, I get it, but I'm serious.
It's not even like that with Currency. Currency is actually one of those artists as well because he's put out so much music. So as long as he keeps on putting out music, it's like, do you have to listen to every project? No, but you might end up doing that over time.
Yeah, very true. That's definitely true. Like, so I got a quick question for you, right? When we're talking about this Future thing. So I'm not sure if you know this, but today he did drop a deluxe to this album.
I will not be listening. I'm not in no rush at all. All.
Oh, you might because I haven't listened to the deluxe yet because there's 6 new songs, which I'll say what I have to say about deluxe at another time. But Babyface Ray is one of the features on the deluxe.
Yo, shouts out to Babyface Ray, man. Like, I fuck with Babyface Ray, but like that being said, man, I like the songs that I like on the original version. I don't need to do that shit.
Yeah. Nah, I'm totally with you, bro. Like, I don't personally to me, and like I think I've said it before, I'm not a fan of deluxes just because it's like definitely when I think when we grew up, a deluxe album was like you bought the deluxe. Either you got the regular album or you bought the deluxe album for like a dollar or two more.
Right.
But like it was never like, or you just got or it was like, let's say you bought it from like Best Buy or Walmart or Target or something like that. You might get a extra song or a bonus song. But like the way they do it now, I'm not a fan of it. Like you just put out to me, I see it like this. You put out the album Friday. 3 days later, you're putting out 6 new songs on top of it. Why couldn't you? What stopped you from just putting these 6 songs on the album originally?
You know what it is, man. It's some marketing bullshit that they're gonna do, or something to get sales up, blah blah blah. This, that, and the third. Like it's, hey man, just give me my music.
Yeah,
Just give me my music. That's all I want.
seriously, bro. Like, cause to me, like I said, like, and I think even you said it before. It's in terms of the art of it. You just want one album. Like whatever you give me is how I'm digesting this album. That's
Exactly.
when if you give me 10 songs, that to me the album is 10 songs. Even if you give me like just like the Pooh Shiesty thing. Like, I'm not sure you've seen it. Like with Shiesty Season, there's Shiesty Season that originally came out before he went to jail. Then there's Shiesty Season Spring. There's like a Shiesty Season Deluxe somewhere. There's a Shiesty Season Spring version, and now there's a Shiesty Season Certified. I was going through like my Apple Music and I saw this. It's 38 songs on there. 38 songs. The original album, the original Shiesty Season's only like 16. Like,
So last week we were just talking about like how they put out different sequencing of the playlist, which I'm not against that, but like when we're talking about just putting out the same album, like literally the same album, except oh, it has a different version of this song and a different version of that song. I'm not here for that. So I'm good personally.
yeah, well, it's not different versions of the song. Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's just, oh, there's a remix, they're remixing the song, but
And then it's a whole new version.
yeah, but I'm not gonna lie to you though. I did listen to the Shiesty Season. Certified, not gonna hold you. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard because it's new songs.
I'll listen
It's,
to it.
yeah, it's some new songs. It's like
Fuck
just
it.
listen to like the first 11 songs, I think, which this is where it becomes the headache of listening to a deluxe. Because literally what they're doing is dropping the same album twice.
Yep.
And then what happens is they hide the original out to find the original album on like these streaming platforms is so hard. So essentially you're stuck with listening to the deluxe, which is ridiculous, which there's always ways around it, but yeah.
Now, before we get out of here, I have a question for you, Spencer. You ready?
You're going to laugh at the answer.
If if you only have one weekend this month to watch something and you only have 5 hours a lot of time, you have two choices. You only have two choices. Remember that. The new Batman movie or the new Doctor Strange movie.
Well, I'll put it this way.
You have two choices.
Well, I'll tell you like this. I'll put it like this. How long is the Doctor Strange movie?
You have two choices.
If I have 5 hours of time, right?
Yes.
I'll go with Batman
Why?
because I'll probably get a good 4.5 hours of sleep.
Okay. All right. That's fair. They said the new Doctor Strange movie, I think it's like, if I'm not mistaken, it's 2 hours and people think that's short. I'm like, hey, man, that's enough time.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you though. For like, it's weird how it works. Like a good movie to me, I'm not gonna lie to you. A good movie's around as close to 2 hours. Unfortunately,
Hey, I'll put it like this, right? You know, we all talk about album length and how long albums should be and blah, blah, blah. I feel like you only need but so much time to tell a story. If your movie happens to be longer, that's cool. But I'm not looking for a movie because it's 3 fucking hours long. I'm not, you know?
I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not sitting and like I'm not doing that. Like I can't sit and like I can't sitting in a theater for 3 hours is a long time.
It is.
That's a long, like literally. Let's say let's say you're like saying like, hey, I'm eating every 3 hours, right? You literally could eat a meal right before you go into the movie, and then 3 hours later, it's time for dinner. Like that's excessive. I'm sorry, bro. Like, I think a good movie is like an hour, 45 minutes to 2 hours. Like in terms of like in terms of like a good lengthy plot. Like think of a really good movie, like where you really love the plot itself. It's typically more than an hour and a half.
Yes, but to say that a good movie is only 2 hours or the length is an hour 45 to 2 hours, I'm gonna disagree with that because I think that most hour 45-minute movies are like horror movies or comedy films or action films. So that being said, you have the hours that are over 2 hours that'll be like usually like dramas and whatnot. And you'll see those movies be like the Oscar, nominated movies and blah, blah, blah. And I would say that those movies have decent plots in them as well. Usually better plots than an action movie or a comedy film.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have to give you that then, because I'm not as much of a movie buff as you are. But to me, I can definitely see that because like there's certain movies like I look at like even though it's not an action movie, but it's like The Departed, for instance, classic film. But the film is like it's like 2 hours and like a little over 2 hours.
Yeah,
Casino. And like you, another classic,
long as fuck.
Amazing movie though, like an amazing movie. Saying. Amazing movie, like you, and that's why I think for me that's why like for me I think I like those type of films more of, and like some of those films, even like Wolf of Wall Street, I think it's like 2 hours. Like those films, like if it's like a minute 45, like an hour 45 to like I'll say 2 hours and 15 minutes, like anything between that range. Typically, those are the movies for me personally, I can sit through those. But once you, like you said, it starts kicking like 3 hours and shit, like, nah,
yeah, it's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like, sketchy.
Yeah, but hopefully Doctor Strange might be up for an award.
Even if it's not, I'll be enjoying it.
I bet. And hopefully you come back with feedback.
I will next week.
Bet, because I'll give you my feedback on when I watch Batman.
With your eyelids. Like, you're gonna have to tell me how the eyelids look.
Actually, funny enough, I actually watched it when I was going to bed. I actually put it on as like a background. Cause I was like, yo, I know it's like 3 hours. I can turn this on, watch some of it, go to bed, and wake up in the middle of the night. It's still playing. Literally, I fell asleep watching the movie, woke up, went to the bathroom, still playing, went back to sleep. Woke up. Credits are just starting to roll. I was like, yo, this is a long movie, bro.
You should give it an actual honest chance, man. It's not a bad movie. Like
it's not. From what I've seen, it's not. It looks good. I'll probably watch it again.
All 10 minutes that you saw before you fell asleep were actually all right. They were decent.
Bro, and then you know what I did when I woke up? I turned it back on. I said, yo, I'm going to just
keep. That's crazy.
Yo, I'm so serious. I woke up. I said, I'm going to just turn it back on. I'm going to watch it. They're going to get some couple streams out of me, but I'm going to watch it. I'm going to just watch it like it's like, you know how back in the day, like on USA, the channel, like you might watch like Monk. You might be watching the same episode like multiple times. Or like you remember like back in the day or even today, like certain shows will have like the same episode like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. It's like the same thing. It's just this time instead of being a 30-minute show, it's a 3-hour movie.
Man, look, the way I see it is like this, right? It took me a long time to watch Game of Thrones. It did, because I kept on falling asleep like you did. And I like Game of Thrones now. After I finally stayed awake and I watched it, I was like, wow, this is actually a really damn good show. But I had to stay awake for that. With that being said, though, do you have anything else for the listeners this week?
Only thing I would say is drink your water. Make sure you breathe. Make sure you. Yeah, I'm telling you. Listen, man, we live in a wild world. People forget to breathe sometimes. Right. One thing that I would love them to do, since I haven't been back in a while, and it would be a great favor to me, for the listeners to go and subscribe to the YouTube, which is the Highly Advised Podcast. Subscribe to the Instagram, which is the Highly Advised Podcast. Also, if you want to check out the tweets, hear what our thoughts are, go check us out on Twitter at Advise Highly. I think, and actually, if you're listening to this, actually, I'll tell you this: if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to us anywhere, anytime, and you don't want to have, maybe you don't have the premium YouTube, so you got to keep the app open the whole time. We're on every streaming platform. Go to any streaming platform, type in that Highly Advised Podcast. Or if you're actually on a streaming platform and maybe you're brand selective and you want to switch teams. We're on that, whatever one that other one is, we're on there too. So type in Highly Advised Podcast anywhere, and that's where we are. That's the favor they can do for me.
Listeners, this is Relaxing OG Jackson. That is Saint Kitch, aka Spence. We are getting out of here. I need to get my food before the cats get it. You have been highly advised. We will see you next week. Bye, y'all. Shasha, you've been highly advised. We're out of here. Peace.